Just drink. I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Film on Tap, where we've got the tap that never runs out. As always, I am joined by my wonderful co-hosts, Nancy and Andres. How are you guys on this Sunday?
I'm doing well.
Got my Starbucks per usual.
Now, what's the Starbucks order we're going with today? What do we got?
I did caramel ribbon crunch frappuccino.
Caramel ribbon crunch frappuccino.
That sounds delicious.
That's my usual, I need to wake the fuck up drink.
I think I have some sort of immunity to Starbucks because it just never gives me any sort of caffeine high. I just feel like I just get more tired when I have it for some reason.
But do you drink coffee? Well, you drink coffee though, a lot. Yes.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I still get a caffeine high occasionally from the coffee I have. So it's not just generally.
Okay. Gotcha.
Kind of sounds like it's a placebo effect.
I don't drink coffee at all. So when I get Starbucks, it's fucking wired.
So you're just fucking yeah.
Oh God.
Plus all the thousands of calories of sugar in these drinks.
I mean, if that doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And what are you drinking over there, Andres?
Well, right now I'm just having water from the Dune water bottle that you got me, Tom. So thank you for that. As I embark on my, how many days are in June? 30? Yeah, my 30-day quest to go sugar-free for all of June.
Ooh.
All right. Sugar-free June. You've heard it here, folks.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm trying.
All right. Well, day one.
This-
Let's see how it goes.
Yeah. How does that work though? Because everything has sugar in it. Natural, I'm assuming not natural sugars, because even strawberries have fucking sugar in them and shit.
Oh yeah. Now it's not necessarily. It's more just no soda, no no soda, no juices. Mostly just a lot of water, but all the natural stuff fruits, of course, absolutely. You need some type of sugar in there, but I'm more going for all natural stuff. But not too much of even all natural, because even that's kind of negating the point on that one, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
So good luck to you.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, anyways, we've got a pretty jam-packed show today. I mean, last episode we focused on two big movies. That was fun. But today we got some trailers to talk about, a couple big ones. And then, of course, a big movie we're going to be diving deep into with the new Mission Impossible film. So without further ado, let's take it away. And we've got the first big trailer, of course, we got to talk about that came out since last we spoke on here. And that is the brand new trailer for Superman, which hits theaters in July. We got our first big trailer. This gives us the best look at the movie yet in terms of the performances and the characters and who's going to be in it and what it's going to look and feel like. So before we let Andres do his thing, let's see what Nancy has to say.
Yeah, I think this looks really good. For some reason, the only thing that's throwing me off is Superman's voice. I don't know what it is. He sounds like Brendan Fraser to me. And so every time he's speaking, I'm just this is some reason your voice doesn't match your face. I don't know what it is. But the action sequences look fantastic. I want to see a little bit of a nerdier Clark Kent. And I don't know if that's because in the trailer we're getting him interviewing as Superman. And so his actual personality is coming out more. So I'm hoping when he's more in disguise that he will be a little bit more on the nerdy side. And I swear to God, if they do anything to his dog, I'm going to be so upset. So
yeah, if anything happens to that dog, we riot. That's just kind of how that works.
I don't think anything can happen to that dog. If anyone has seen the 4-minute preview where it's Superman just literally on the ground and Crypto jumping on him, it's one of those things where it's I'd be more afraid of that dog more than anything else.
You never know. What if he accidentally gets stabbed with kryptonite or something?
Yeah, I was going to say, doesn't he have the same kryptonite weakness that Superman does?
Yes, he does. Yeah.
So it's possible.
See?
It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Don't do anything to that dog.
All right. Well, besides the dog and Clark Kent, you thinking it looks pretty good?
Yeah, no, I think it looks great. And freaking Nicholas Hoult, man. I think he's when they first cast him, I was like, that's stupid. I don't see him as Lex Luthor at all. But in the trailers, he looks fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to this one. Yeah.
Very nice. All right, Andres, do your thing.
Let's do it, Cronkite. Yeah, so right off the bat, the first couple of seconds of the trailer, now here's the thing. The little brief glimpse that you get of Clark Kent in the very beginning of this trailer says so much about the performance in terms of just what the dichotomy is going to be between Clark and Superman. Because the second that he's talking to Lois and he's just like she's like, really? You're going to let me interview you? It's like, yeah, sure. So he's a little high pitched. And then all of a sudden, the second that he becomes Superman, you just see that transformation just in his voice as well. And you're like, man, this is exactly why they cast him. And again, Gunn has also said that scene in the trailer was the scene that they auditioned with. So that to me spells so much in terms of the portrayal of where they're going with this character. But honestly, everything I love about this trailer, I love so much. I love everything that they're giving us so far. Just even down to the very fact that Superman in this one is Superman in this one is at least being accounted for some of his actions that are happening on a global scale. And it seems like they're going down a much more nuanced path than Snyder did with Batman v Superman, because they didn't really give Clark too much of a character in that one. And that's not a fault of Henry Cavill. That's more of a fault of the writing on that. But with this, so far, everything about it seems like they are going down the path of this is a character who loves doing the right thing, but doesn't realize that there are certain consequences to doing the right thing. Because I just love that moment where all of a sudden he's just like, people were going to die. What could I have done? And I'm like, that's our hopeful Superman right there. But in terms of the action, in terms of,
is that what you're saying?
Yeah, held accountable.
Is that what you're trying? Being held accountable? Okay.
Oh man,
being held accountable for his actions. No. Okay,
oh,
I'm
boy.
following now. Go for it.
Yeah, well, there you go. The way to deflate the excitement right there, but that's all good. But
I was making sure I understood what you were saying.
Okay. But everything else about the trailer looks really great so far. Like the action looks really good. I love just the small moments here and there with Superman, just like, just sort of keeping a more hopeful and a more, for lack of a better word, like a more family friendly approach, if that makes sense, because they do spread a little bit of that humor in there. Like there's that one moment in the trailer where he's like, hey, big guy, eyes up here. And I'm like, all right, I'm liking everything that they're showing so far. And even Nicholas Hoult as well. Like, again, I'm with you on when they cast him, Nancy, that it was kind of a little strange, but it's all in the writing and it's all in the performance and it's all in the execution. And right there so far, everything seems to give us that this is a Lex that understands far more than he's letting on. And he's almost in like a sort of an ultra super rational, like, we need to do something about this guy because then humanity will not aspire to anything else. So I think everything that they're going down the path to is very all-star Superman. And it's very much just a very different take on this character. And also, I mean, I'd be very remiss to not talk about Rachel Brosnahan and the little moments that we have her as Lois Lane, and she's a really, she goes toe to toe with Superman on that front. And so I think everybody is up to the task. James Gunn, he has proven that this is something to look forward to, and July 11th cannot get here soon enough. So I'm very excited for this movie.
Thank you for keeping your thoughts brief and concise.
As always.
But yeah, I'm very much so looking forward to this one. I think it looks like a nice breath of fresh air compared to the previous Superman movies we've gotten, disregarding, Henry Cavill, who I just felt like never really got the Superman movie he deserved. But I really love Corn Sweat as Superman and Clark Kent here. Seeing the two sides of him briefly was really cool. The action looks great. Nicholas Hoult looks like he's really bringing his A game as Lex Luthor. The visuals look really solid here. It just looks like a fun, hopeful Superman movie, which is what we want. We don't want a dark, dour, gritty Superman movie. Leave that to Batman. You know, like Superman is supposed to be kind of goofy, fun, hopeful, positive. Of course, there are stakes, but it should feel more optimistic and joyful. And I feel like I'm getting that, especially from this trailer. And all the performances just look fantastic. I think the only thing I'm worried about with this movie is that there might be like an overabundance of comic book characters here. I just feel like there's just so many people who pop up in this trailer that I'm just kind of curious of like who's going to get shortchanged or if it's going to feel overstuffed. That's like my one concern going into this movie. But I would say other than that, I'm really looking forward to this one. I mean, I think this is going to be a big movie this summer, obviously. And I'm just hoping that James Gunn is able to bring another comic book winner. I mean, he's really not missed, in my opinion, yet in terms of the comic book movies he's directed. So, yeah, I'm in. Bring it on. Corn Sweat looks awesome.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right. I guess that's that.
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so now we're going to shift gears a little bit to a new horror trailer. And yep, the Conjuring franchise is still going, people. It's still out there. And we're apparently getting our final Conjuring film with Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson. This is their last Conjuring movie called The Last Rites. And of course, you know, James Wan isn't directing this one. This one is going to be directed by Michael Chavez. And we got our first trailer for the movie, which is hitting theaters this fall. What do we think about this one? Do we still care about the Conjuring franchise? Are we looking forward to this one? Let's start with you, Andres.
Yeah. Honestly, I saw this trailer right in front of Mission Impossible twice because for some reason, someone had messed up the DCP and basically played the trailer over and over again. And I got to tell you, even after watching that trailer twice on the big screen, I don't know if I care at all about this franchise anymore. And that's a bummer to me because I loved the first Conjuring movie and I thought the second one was even better than the original. I know I'm in the minority on that, but I think the scares were far better. I think the character work was so superior in the sequel. And the last one was such a stinker and I really cared nothing about it that it kind of killed all the goodwill I had towards seeing what the story of the Warrens was later on. And I kind of felt that they already did everything that they could. And then with this one, I'm just like, there's not a hook for me to get excited about it, apart from the fact that it's the final movie. And they also claimed that the last one was going to be the final movie. So truthfully, nothing about the trailer really surprises me. Nothing about it really gets me in the theater. I might see it. I might not see it. I'm very down the middle on this one, unfortunately.
All right. Very optimistic. We love that. Nancy?
I think this looks like a solid horror film, but I think in terms of the franchise, they really haven't given us a reason to care. And I can't even remember when was the last one released? Wasn't it a while ago?
It was 2020.
Yeah,
it was released on HBO Max.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, granted, 2020, obviously things weren't in the theaters. I'll give them a pass for that. But, 5 years later, you have to give us a reason to care about why we need another Conjuring. And I think in terms of part of the franchise, it's just kind of things we've seen before. So there's nothing that sticks out, that's like, oh, this is different. And I'm in the same boat as Andres in the terms of like, well, it's the last one. That may be a reason for me to go see it. In terms of the acting and everything like that and visuals, I think it looks good, but just not unique at this point. And so I think they really need to find a way to make it unique other than this is just the last one. So it looks fine, but not incredibly excited to see it.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you guys on this one. I really don't. Aside from the first two movies, I just really haven't cared much about this franchise. But honestly, the main reason I'm not looking forward to this movie is the director. Michael Chavez has directed some of the worst movies in this franchise. He did like The Curse of La Llorona. He did the last Conjuring movie. He did the two Nun movies, all of which sucked. It's just, I don't think the guy can make a scary movie. He doesn't know how to do good scares. He gets these great stories and great characters that are like filled with limitless potential in terms of scares and tension. And I just feel like he doesn't know what to do with them. And these movies just end up being super lame. So even though this is a pretty solid trailer, I'm not excited for this movie, mainly because he's directing it. If James Wan was back at the helm, I would actually be very excited for this one. That's the one thing that bothers me about James Wan. He starts these great franchises and then he just leaves them, and there's always diminishing returns, like every single time. So it's just like, I really wish he kind of came back to do the final one since he's such a good horror director, but unfortunately, this is what we have. I mean, it's nice to see Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga back. They've always been like the beating heart of these movies, and their relationship is always like so sweet and wonderfully like loving. So they're probably going to be the only reason to really see this one, but I am not expecting it to be very scary. And I'm just kind of expecting another dud, frankly. But it's a bummer. I just wish they gave this movie to a different director. I would probably be more excited.
Maybe James Wan is like, let me go out on top. Right? Once he starts these franchises and he's like, you know what? Time to walk away. Don't jinx it. Don't make it worse. Yeah. No, I agree.
I mean, but the thing is that Wan, as a filmmaker, he started up these franchises and he's also gone on to do other things as well. And I think that's a really great place to be in as a director. I mean, like, the rumor is right now is that he's apparently going to be directing the last Ronin Turtles movie, which, if that's true, holy shit, that would be amazing. But one other reason, and you guys have also pointed out to this as well, but one other reason I'm not excited for this, I feel like there's a taste fatigue with the Conjuring universe. We've gotten so many spin-offs and so many things that are not the Warrens that by this point, like, for me, it just kind of diminished the franchise. And it just kind of made it just like, okay, it's there. It's trying to be Marvel, but it's not.
No, because they all just like felt super half-assed. Like, aside from maybe like one or two of them, like, it just, especially like the Nun movies, those could have been terrifying, and they were both super lame.
I remember seeing both. I remember seeing the first Nun movie in theaters, and I was jet lagged, and literally I was passing out throughout that movie. That movie was so fucking boring.
Yeah, and you can tell they're pulling out all the stops for this movie, because I don't know, did you guys see that they moved the little Raggedy Ann doll that's Annabelle on a US tour, essentially? And it's like, well, they're clearly doing this to promote the movie. But what I thought was hilarious is when it was in New Orleans, I think that was the day that like some major plantation like burned down, and like 20 prisoners escaped or something. It was like the week that they took Annabelle to New Orleans. Everyone's like, see, stop messing with her.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Well, that's interesting. But yeah, definitely. I think we're all kind of collectively agreeing that this one it is what it is. We're not particularly excited for it, but who knows? But still kind of staying in the same genre somewhat. We had a brand new trailer, our first look at a very exciting Netflix film hitting theaters this winter, and that is the new Frankenstein movie that's coming to us from director Guillermo del Toro. This is our first trailer for the movie. I've been so excited to see footage from this one. I feel like Frankenstein and del Toro seems like a match made in heaven. And after watching this trailer, I definitely was right about that. But let's see what you guys have to think. How about you, Nancy? What did you think of this trailer?
Oh man, this looks so good. And I feel like anything like horror-esque with Guillermo del Toro, it's like he can do no wrong. Like Pan's Labyrinth was freaking amazing. Shape of Water. Even with the new Pinocchio one, that's where I kind of was like, I don't know why he's doing Pinocchio. Like, that's kind of weird. And I saw it and was like, holy crap. All right. Done. Guillermo del Toro can do no wrong. And this just looks so good. Oscar Isaac looks amazing in this, and all the visual effects, and Frankenstein, we haven't seen his face yet, but the way, even just seeing his hands and the way he moves, it looks so good. So I'm really, really looking forward to this one. I'm also curious, are we finally moving to just being okay with calling Frankenstein like the monster is Frankenstein? Because I'm sick of people, when everyone says Frankenstein, they're like, yeah, that's Frankenstein's monster. Frankenstein is actually the guy who made him. So I'm curious if now they're just like, fuck it, we're just calling him Frankenstein. Everyone calls him that. Let's just move on from it. So that should be interesting. I'm curious. But yeah, no, this looks really, really good. And is it only on Netflix? Or is it Netflix
Yeah,
and theaters?
yeah.
Unfortunately, that's going to be the thing that pisses me off the most. Is that this is
no
not getting a theatrical
release. It's so dumb.
This looks top, like this, because we've done trailers on here before where it's only Netflix, and you're like, yep, this looks like a Netflix movie. Like, this definitely looks like it's where it's supposed to be, and this looks nothing like it should be on Netflix. Like, I don't know why it would not be in theaters.
But see, it's a pro and a con, because it's like, on one hand, if it wasn't for Netflix, there's no way Guillermo del Toro would have gotten the funding for this movie.
Yeah.
And the con is he had to take the drawback of it's only probably going to be on Netflix. I mean, like, the only thing that's a bummer is, like, you know, Rian Johnson's Knives Out movies, like, those still would have done amazing in theaters, but he decided to take the Netflix deal, and now, you know, his movies are getting boned theatrically where they don't even get a release, or if they do, it's for like a week and that's it. So it's just it's a bummer, but it just seems kind of like a necessary evil. And frankly, look, I'm just happy we're getting a Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein movie. But yeah, this looks massive. It looks like it needs to be seen on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And to even go on that point as well, too, where it's like, you know, everyone just goes, it's Guillermo del Toro, so he should be able to draw a big box office. But if you look at him historically, he's not really, people love him as a director, but he's not someone that racks up box office numbers, if that makes sense. So that's a con against having his vision go up. And then also on top of that as well, too, how many Frankenstein movies have we gotten in the past, like, 10 years that have all been just, like, boring pieces of shit that are just like, there is the Frankenstein movie with, what's his name? Aaron Eckhart.
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. God. Like,
I was like, I can't even think of one, but forgot about that.
Yeah, and then we have the what is called the James McAvoy, Daniel Radcliffe Frankenstein movie as well, too. It was not good, unfortunately. But the thing is that what Guillermo really, really is good at is he's good at taking a story that we all know and finding these little small thematic emotional beats, like how he did with Pinocchio, where, you know, again, same exact thing. It could only have gone to Netflix because Disney was developing their Pinocchio movie with Zemeckis. And then it's like, it's just kind of, you know, that Disney Plus movie was a piece of garbage in itself.
That was so bad.
And literally, what, like 4 months later, Del Toro comes out with his Pinocchio movie, and did it win the Oscar? I'm not sure if it did for Best Animated.
No, I don't think it did. It should have. I'll look it up. Keep talking. I'll look it up.
But anyway, with this trailer in particular, I am super freaking excited for this, because even if anybody has read the Mary Shelley Frankenstein book as well, you can tell that there are certain things in that book that are radically different than what the public zeitgeist is for the character of Frankenstein, where, you know, people have it in their mind where, like, Frankenstein's monster. Sorry, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that, Nancy. It's Frankenstein's monster.
No, I know it is. I'm just saying everyone says that. It's like, maybe we should just give in. And it's and he did win. It did win Best Animated, which rightfully so. That was such a beautiful film.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I wasn't sure about that. It was so long ago, but anyway. But the thing is that what I love about what they're showing in this so far is that Victor is running away from the creation that he's made, even to the point where he's run all the way over to the Arctic. And that's something that has not been fully portrayed in terms of the potentiality of that storyline and how affecting it could be in terms of how did he get to that moment. I mean, there is the Kenneth Branagh Frankenstein movie, but unfortunately that one was really, really, really kind of just a dud. But overall, with this trailer, I am super excited for it. Guillermo del Toro's vision has it's never missed for me. Even with stuff like Crimson Peak, I still think that is a gorgeous movie. I still think that there's far more under the surface for that movie. Oscar Isaac as Victor is really exciting me in terms of he's coming off as like this sort of like this egomaniacal like doctor who's doing all this in the cause for science at no matter what cost, even as family. I'm like, oh, this looks great. And then also, again, too, Jacob Elordi is playing Frankenstein's monster, and we don't get any glimpses of him at all. And what I'm hoping is, with as much of a fanboy and as much as I can picture Guillermo just getting creative with the Frankenstein monster design, where in the book it's written that there are certain body parts that are like literally Frankenstein's monster is a being that's cobbled together from so many different bad people and so many different like prisoners and all that other stuff that essentially it's written in the book that like certain pieces don't match up and that he is sort of like this creature that looks very odd and looks far from human. And the fact that all the glimpses we've seen so far is literally just him bundled up and him covered. I have hope that Guillermo is going to go nuts with that design, and I'm looking forward to that. Jacob Elordi's voice so far has given me a lot of hope. Seeing Mia Goth in there for a little split second, super freaking excited for this. It's going to be a crying shame that this doesn't go to theaters, I think.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. I mean, this is exactly what I want a Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein movie to look like. It just looks gorgeous, visually beautiful. I mean, the cinematography looks to die for. I mean, the performances look just terrific. Like Oscar Isaac as Victor Frankenstein, just chef's kiss casting there. And then I just love the visual look of any Guillermo del Toro movie. They just always look so gorgeous, like meant for the big screen. Again, it's just a bummer it's not going to be in theaters. But I just like the way he's handling the story. I love the set design, the production design. Jacob Elordi as Frankenstein. I mean, just that him screaming Victor at the end of the trailer gave me chills. I was like, I'm so in for this fucking movie. Like, I'm like all the way in. It cannot come soon enough. I really cannot wait for this movie. I think it's going to be just pitch perfect for Del Toro. I just think it's just... I've always loved the story of Frankenstein. I just feel like it's beautifully tragic. And I just feel like this is kind of giving it like what I've always wanted from that story. I feel like mostly in the past, they've played it for, I don't know, like kind of popcorn entertainment for the most part. Like sometimes they've tried to take it to some darker places, but for the most part, it seems a little maybe too mainstream in a lot of ways. So to kind of see it go a different route here, I really love. Yeah, I can't wait. I just wish it wasn't on Netflix.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the movies feel very, oh God, what was that movie with Hugh Jackman? He like
Van Helsing.
Yes, thank you, Van Helsing. I was like, what was that movie? I kind of liked it, but it was it's good, but it definitely has a different tone, and I feel like that's the tone a lot
it's
of
like The Mummy, but for Van Helsing.
Yes, yeah.
That was,
and I feel
that
like
was
that's
them
a lot
trying
of...
to start their extended universe too back in 2004. So
yeah. I mean, it's a lot of Frankenstein movies have that tone, and so it's nice to see this is taking a different tone with it instead of going the Van Helsing route.
But also Justice for Van Helsing. I love that movie. But yeah, so we're definitely looking forward to this one. I'm definitely curious to see if it can live up to expectations. But come on, Netflix, just give it a little theatrical run, just like a little bit, just like a little bit.
It worked well for Glass Onion for what, that 2-week mark that they gave it, just to sort of be like, all right, Rian Johnson, just shut up. Here it is.
But yeah, we'll see what happens
I'd
with
take
that.
it.
But speaking of the theatrical experience, I don't think any other movie is truly meant for it. Like our next movie that we're going to be talking about, this is our main event for the week. We're going to be talking about Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, the seemingly final entry in this long-running beloved action franchise, starring, of course, the incomparable Tom Cruise. This is another massive movie meant for the big screen here. A lot of expectation going into this one. It's a continuation, obviously, of Dead Reckoning Part 1, which hit theaters a little while back. So it was definitely going to be interesting to see how they were going to stick this landing, if it was going to feel like a satisfying finale, if it's truly meant to be a finale. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, we're going to be talking spoilers here. So if you haven't seen it, you're going to want to stop watching or listening to this episode because you will be spoiled. But if you have seen the movie, or if you don't care about being spoiled, here we go. So we're going to talk about our general thoughts first, and then we'll dive into some spoiler territory. But generally, what did we think of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning? Let's start with you, Andres.
Yeah. So yeah, as a really big fan of this franchise, there was a lot riding on this movie in terms of making it all come together in a way that didn't seem forced. And unfortunately, I think certain things about this movie really do work and really do lend itself to be that theatrical experience. And Tom Cruise really does deliver the spectacle and the stunt aspect of this movie that honestly you won't get watching at home. Seeing this on the big screen is exactly how you should see it. And having said all that, I will say a lot of the story elements for me kind of didn't work, and a lot of stuff really, really kind of really kind of stretch credulity, if you will, in terms of, wait a minute, but how is this all gonna come together? And it just so happens that every single thing just happens to fall in the right place in the right time. But apart from that, I really loved seeing the return of certain characters, and we'll get more into that in the spoiler territory. But in terms of, it's not a perfect movie, but for me, it was still a very enjoyable movie. It might be a little lower in the ranks for me for a Mission Impossible movie, but I will say that third act is still a killer and is still something that deserves to be seen on the biggest screen possible. So ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a good movie, but it's, in terms of it being a final movie, I will say it kind of leaves me with the franchise on a little bit of a downslope, if that makes sense. But it's still good.
Okay, Nancy.
I think this was a good ending to the franchise. I think probably why it's not hitting as hard maybe for you, Andres, is I feel like it was more like a love letter to the franchise than like ending it as a movie to the franchise, if that makes sense. Because the beginning for me was very clunky. It was kind of like, let's reminisce about the franchise itself. And then once it got into the actual movie, it almost felt like sped up, like a lot of things were happening at once and like super fast. And then after that, it kind of got its footing and, started to level out a little bit. And I think this movie, plot-wise, was fine. But to me, the issue is, and maybe because it was like 10:15 at night and I was a few drinks in, but to me, like, I'm having trouble like remembering parts of the movie. Whereas there's certain action sequences and certain sequences that stand out more than the movie itself. There's two sequences where I just felt like, holy crap, I was very entranced, like locked in. And they were so good. And I would rate those were like a 10 for 10. Whereas the movie itself as a whole wasn't. So I think overall it was a good like ending to the franchise and a love letter to the franchise, but as a Mission Impossible movie, probably didn't hold up as much as the other movies.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like probably out of the three of us, I might have been the most excited for this one, just because I'm like a massive Tom Cruise fan and I adore this franchise, and I genuinely think it's just one of the best action franchises out there. So I definitely had some pretty sky high expectations going into this one. I wasn't like over the moon about Dead Reckoning Part 1, but I still really enjoyed it. So I was still looking forward to this one. And I think I'm more so, I would say, in line with you guys for the most part. I do think it's a very entertaining movie. I do think it has its problems. I do feel like it cares too much about catching people up when, you're 8 movies deep. Like, why now? You know what I mean? Of just like, where if you're a fan, what came before it. We don't need like a huge, like previously on Mission Impossible for like the first 15 minutes of this movie, where it's just like, okay, like we don't really need this, and especially if you're like a non-Mission Impossible fan, like you could still watch this movie and understand what's going on for the most part. You might not catch some Easter eggs, but like, I don't think that's the end of the world. But I just felt like that first hour, I think like a lot of people, I didn't mind it, I didn't get bothered by it as much, I think, as most people did. I think it is a little clunky. It is a little bit too kind of stop and go in terms of the pacing, where it kind of takes a little bit to find its footing and kind of hit the ground running. But I think really like once it kind of really gets to the meat of the story, that's when it really starts to feel like a great Mission Impossible movie, where like I really love the stakes in this one. You really feel it in like every frame. There's like this urgency and tension like throughout, even when characters are just talking, it just feels very dire, and I love that whole atmosphere, very somber. But it doesn't forget to have fun. It doesn't forget to give you those action sequences that you love. I mean, the submarine sequence and the biplane sequence that you get a glimpse of in the trailer, they're just two of the best set pieces the franchise has ever done. Full stop.
Yes.
Like, even if the rest of the movie was complete trash, it would still be worth watching for those two sequences alone, especially on the big screen, where those two sequences I couldn't even like hold my, like I just like I couldn't breathe. They were just so well done. And the fact that you're watching Tom Cruise do these things is just, it really is this indescribable feeling just seeing the lengths this guy goes to just for our entertainment. It's unreal. And he delivers action sequences like no other out there. And like the action sequences in this movie, not even just those two sequences. There's some great fight sequences that I think are beautifully done and really visceral, and I really enjoyed those. But there's some great emotional character stuff in here too. There's some send-offs for certain characters, some reunions with other characters, and I think that's really well done, and it hits some good emotional notes. But in terms of, does this feel like the final entry in the series? No. It really doesn't, especially by the time it ended. It just kind of felt like another Mission Impossible movie. It just kind of felt like, oh, there'll probably be another one at some point. Maybe not in the near future, but there'll be some like, Mission Impossible Reawakening or some shit like that. Like it'll happen.
I think that if they do, I think it'll be like him passing the torch to someone else. I do really think that he's done with the franchise. Now he's not done with other franchises and other shit that he wants to do. So I think his focus is going to be more on that. But yeah, no, I think he's good. But yeah,
I see another one. I think
he'll have a cameo or something.
Or who knows? They might just do the Jim Phelps thing of just like, because the thing in the TV series is that Jim Phelps, Jon Voight's character in the first movie, Jim Phelps was actually the hero of the TV series, and in the first movie he became the villain. And I remember way back when in the day, people were pissed about that. Like, I remember like my grandfather and my uncle, they were just like, how could they make Jim Phelps the villain and pave the way for this Tom Cruise bullshit? This isn't Mission Impossible. So yeah, like even way back when, people were pissed about that. But I will say they could also just do like the greatest send off and have Tom Cruise become the ultimate villain of the next movie and pass the torch on to somebody else. So who knows? Who knows?
No, they're not going to make him a villain.
I don't think that. One thing I will say is I do not want any Mission Impossible prequels. Like freaking like let's not go down that route.
Oh God,
no, thank you.
No thanks.
No, I can see them doing that. It's like no.
I did read somewhere that Tom Cruise was actually trying to get Glenn Powell to like be the new Mission Impossible star, and Glenn was like, "No." He's just like, "No." It's like this is your series, man. I'm not going to be that guy. And then I think he said he's like, "I don't think my mom would let me do it just because of all the stunts and everything."
Also true. Yeah.
They barely got through Top Gun together.
Let's say he's in Top Gun. He's fine. He has that.
No, I mean, look, Tom Cruise has so many exciting projects coming up that like I'm more excited for those. Like I'm good if, Mission Impossible stays cold for a while, like let it rest for a bit.
Yeah. And also with the fact is that apparently they apparently the writer and director of this, he also did have a hand in writing Maverick as well. And he just basically said that, they cracked the third one. It's written, it's done. They're just waiting for the green light.
Yep. Christopher McQuarrie just cranking them out.
Yeah.
Do you think Tom Cruise will get the stuntman Oscar?
I feel like he'll definitely get some sort of like lifetime achievement award. Maybe once that award maybe is like been established for a few years, but there's no doubt in my mind he'll get some sort of like lifetime stunt achievement award or something. Good
job.
Yeah, like you can't have that category and not have some sort of award for Tom Cruise. Like you just can't.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, probably at some point, but yeah.
But like one thing that I really loved about this franchise is that it always had stakes and it always like stayed true to like if a character dies, the character stays dead. Like it's not like let's because fans love this character, let's bring them back. No, this is a franchise that always has felt like this is a franchise that has always had stakes. It's stuck to it. Like I know so many people were hoping that like Ilsa Faust would like come out of being dead in this movie, which I'm glad they didn't do, even though I love her character. But something I really loved about this movie is seeing Luther go. And it was something I predicted in the trailers, but I thought it was just going to be him being sick and like dying that way, which I feel like they kind of set up. But the way that they have him go in the movie, I think is actually much more true to the character and even more heartbreaking and devastating. But the way that they handled that scene in particular was so well done. Cruise crushed it. Rames crushed it. And I will not lie, I was so teary-eyed like after he completes the mission and that recording starts playing of Luther like saying, "I knew you'd do it," and all this stuff. I was like, oh, come on. I was like, come on.
I will say everything about that was executed really well. I completely felt the stakes for Luther as well, and also for that to be their last moment together after so many years and so many moments where they almost all got taken out, and yet they always managed to find a way. And this was a moment where Luther knew it in his soul that I'm not coming out of this. This is one where we're definitely going to fail. And if I can at least defuse this bomb, I can at least make sure that it doesn't become bigger than what it is. And it's one of those things where he dies in a greater minimization of casualties, if that makes sense. God, I knew I was hearing Nancy say, "Oh, okay, wait,
dude,
I was pulling for you."
Look, we were just waiting to see
I was like,
where
you're gonna get there.
the train would end up at. Like,
yeah. I was like, he's gonna get there. He's gonna get there. We'll land.
Let's just say he died with greater purpose this way.
Yeah, there you go, greater purpose. But
I love that he was also like, "Hey, man, this is a job. Like, this is what I signed up for. Like, I wasn't expecting to go out any other way." He was like, "So let's do this. Like, I'm good." So I think that was a cool way to go. And Tom Cruise was also like, he did such a good job, and you could tell he was like, no, like we've done this a million times. I'm gonna figure out, and he's just like, no, man, this is the only way. I'm cool with it. Like, don't even stress about it. I got this. I will say my only qualm. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was about to say it also even goes into a bigger moment where in Mission Impossible Fallout, where Ethan does come across that choice of either sparing Luther or this nuclear weapon basically gets out in the open. And there's a moment where even Ving Rhames, like in some of the best moments in this franchise, where Ving Rhames just goes, "Not for me, Ethan, not for anybody else." It's like, nope, this is exactly what we signed up for. You don't let that weapon get out into the ether. And unfortunately, the weapon still gets out of the ether. But it's one of those things where even Luther knew what the scope of what that choice was going to be. And he's like, no, if there's a choice between either saving lives or taking me out, he always goes to the taking me out part. So, like, in terms of everything that was leading up to that, it's very much in tune with his character.
My only qualm with the whole thing is that, like, he isolates himself to go, like, figure this thing out. And then he's in the situation. But then you have random scenes where he's, like, in a bed and, like, sick, but doesn't really explain it, unless I missed that. So I was like, wait, so is he sick and gonna die anyways? Or was, like, I was unsure of, like, what was happening there. There wasn't a lot of explanation.
Probably what was happening.
I would have liked a little bit, like, clarification on that.
Yeah, he was sick and he was going to die anyway. But the thing is that the whole thing with the entity is that this needed to happen within a couple of days. And
side note, if I never hear the word entity again, oh my God, the amount of times they say it in this movie, dude. Oh my God. Yeah, I would have kept thinking to myself, if you played a drinking game where you had to take a shot or a sip of your drink anytime they said entity, you're not even making it past the first act.
Nope. and I will say a lot of my flaws with this movie, I think it stems from the fact that Dead Reckoning was a bomb. And because of the fact that it bombed so hard, they were worried about the fact that people even remember what happened in the past couple of movies, or even in the last movie. So there were so many stupid callbacks in this movie. I mean, like, normally, I think in Dead Reckoning, they had so many great callbacks that actually made everything make sense. Even Fallout has some really great callbacks, but like stuff that feels very intrinsic to the story. Whereas, I don't know, we're in spoiler territory right now, so I'm just going to vent about that. But making Shea Wingham Jim Phelps' son from the first Mission Impossible movie felt... Yeah. It had no purpose whatsoever. It added nothing to his character, added nothing to this movie. It was basically just like a stupid thing that they threw in just to be like, hey, there's some connective tissue here. And it's like, why?
Felt very Star Wars-esque. Like, everything's connected to everything.
Yeah, but I did like the in terms of making certain connections to other movies. I thought the addition of William Donlow and his
That was
wife
great.
they were fantastic, and that's an example of something where it goes into the theme of the movie, where it's Ethan is answering for the sins of his past. And Nancy, just in case you don't remember about the first movie, William Donlow, he was just a random, ordinary dude over in the CIA that apparently his entire
The movie
job was to
covered it
guard.
enough.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it gave you the whole scene. So you're like,
Oh,
Yeah,
really? Okay,
I
there
just,
you
like,
go.
no, definitely at
But-
first I was like, who the hell is this guy? And it was like, let me show
Yeah.
you. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, now I know.
Oh,
You showed
yeah.
me the
The movie
first
was like,
whole
allow
scene
me
for
to
the
show you
movie.
this reel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, okay, got it.
But the thing that I really liked about including that character is because that character fundamentally is a part of the thematic of Ethan answering for stuff that he's done in the past and what it's affected other people around him. And I thought that was a great way of really, really tying that all together, and him being like, no, because of the choice that you did way back when in the day, I got to come over to Alaska. I got to meet my wife. I got to start up this life. I'm happy. Whereas if I was still over in the CIA, I would have pretended. I would have been in denial that I was happy. And I thought that was such a great thing to even tie into this movie. But oh my goodness, but
It
there's
kinda
so many
reminded me
other
of,
things that just feel like ugh.
it kind of reminds me of oh gosh, what is it? Across the Spider-Verse, I think it is, where the bad guy ends up being like the random guy that gets hit with like the bagel or
Oh.
like something like that. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah,
hey, remember this
the-
random guy? He's actually very important. He's coming back.
Yeah, later on. Yeah. I mean, but one other thing I was going to ask you as well too was, so in terms of a Mission Impossible movie, everything really rides on the team in general. What did you guys think about the team in this movie?
I didn't mind it. Benji's still an MVP. I like that whole scene where they're trying to like treat his wound while also like making sure everything's set up for like when Ethan does his thing. Like that whole scene was perfect. Like him like falling asleep, then waking up. He's like, "All right, now cut the wire." You know, like that whole like, it was so well done. I've always loved Benji, so I was happy to see him make it. And Haley Atwell, I think she definitely grew on me in this movie. I still think she's kind of as a character. And also that other guy who was there, he just like registers as nothing. That like other dude who was
The
like,
other CIA dude.
yeah, he just
yeah.
feels like a nothing character to me. Didn't really love him, but like as a team, it was fine. It's just like, I don't know. It's definitely not nearly as good as like say the team in, Ghost Protocol or Fallout and Rogue Nation and stuff. It's not as good.
Yeah, I kind of feel that Haley Atwell, like, she definitely did grow on me a little more in this one, but I was more afraid that they were going to go down the route of it being a romantic entanglement with Ethan, where I'm like, I'm so glad that they didn't. I mean, mouth to mouth is one thing, but whatever. But
I mean, even in the first one, in the first part, it was very like, I don't know, like, oh, all the women in your life see like something happens to them. He's like, I have to protect you. And it's like, you barely met her. I know she's like technically part of the team now, which, once that happens, it makes sense. But even before that, they set it up very much like, oh, all the women in your life just like die and you have to protect them. And it's like, you guys barely met. Like, why do you guys have this connection already? So I think that was a little bit forced in the first part.
Yeah, it definitely was, and especially in the second part, it felt that all of Haley Atwell's moments kind of felt like they belonged to Ilsa at some point. So I wouldn't have doubted. I mean, because the entire story is that Rebecca Ferguson asked to be written out of the Mission Impossible movies with the last one. And honestly, I don't blame her, because these movies take like 2 or 3 years. They never have scripts. They're basically just sitting around, basically ready to go at any point in time, where they're like, oh, we just wrote a scene, let's do it right now. And that is kind of very tying up for an actor, and that really doesn't give you that much latitude to go pursue other projects. And because of the fact that she was written out of the last one, she got to do both Doom movies. She got to do 2 seasons of Silo. So I think ultimately at the end of the day, she did the right choice. But I think this movie was compensating for that, where it's a lot of moments felt like it was specifically for Elsa. And it was like, I'm not getting much out of the fact that Haley Atwell is at the end when they're all saying goodbye to each other. Like, that to me felt nothing. But also, I have to shout out Pom Klementieff in this movie as Paris. She was probably one of my favorite parts of the new team. Whereas, like, you know,
Well, they didn't
every
really do
single
much
one,
with her, though.
I thought they did quite a bit with her. I mean, just the fact that they had somebody that was on the team that was an assassin that had that kill mentality in her head the entire time. And they're like, no, we can't kill somebody right now. All right. Like you need to ease up real quick. But I love the fact that the second that all of a sudden she had the moment to kill somebody and everyone was screaming, you can kill him, kill Gabriel. And I just thought that was hilarious.
Oh,
Like,
Gabriel's such a nothing villain. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and honestly, in Gabriel,
he had
like,
more in the first one, and this one just
he came off more as like
came across as leftovers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because the first one, I felt like it was very much like he was doing the bidding of the entity and like and then in the second one, that he was like, oh, the entity like doesn't need me anymore. It's like, okay, cool.
And now he's like the entity's like ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, cool. Why are you hanging around still?
Yeah, and then also, I mean, maybe it's the fault of the actor or maybe it's the fault of the writing, but there was never a moment where I truly felt afraid or like that he had a sinister purpose in mind or something that was like, holy shit, Philip Seymour Hoffman is the high point in terms of villains in this franchise. Like, Philip Seymour Hoffman in a few seconds gets you to go, holy shit, this is a customer not to be fucked with. I do not want to see him on a bad day. And I felt like every other villain from the franchise has not lived up to that. And Gabriel is very much a big indicator of that, where I don't know what the hell he was thinking at the very end of the movie, where all of a sudden he's just like, yeah, so I'm going to drive away in this biplane and have this thing blow up. And, oh, just so you know, I have 2 biplanes just in case if you decide to chase me, Ethan. But I don't know. I just thought his motivation was so stupid, and his motivation, or at least his character development, was just kind of nothing. And then also, even on top of that, just the choices he was making as an actor was like, what is this? Like, where all of a sudden he's just like screaming out going, ha, hang on, Ethan. I was like, this feels like a completely different character than what we were setting up as in general. And, but I will say he has probably one of the best death sequences in the franchise. Yeah,
that was a solid
where I was laughing for like a straight 5 minutes after I saw that. I was like, yep, there you go. You got us to hate this character, but for all the wrong reasons. And then all of a sudden his parachute thing just fucks up. And I'm like, all right, chef's kiss on that one. You could have done a lot better things with this character, but you ended off with that. So I'm okay with that, at least.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed though that Jeremy Renner never came back. I was really hoping. I mean, obviously his injury didn't help, and he was probably busy doing other stuff. But I don't know. It felt like for your final movie, he seemed like a pretty big character to just not ever come back. I don't know. And it's weird. He's never even mentioned either. So it's very strange.
Yeah, and he was so intrinsically tied with what's his name, with Alec Baldwin's character from 5 and 6. That it kind of feels like he's in the background somewhere, and I'm sure if they make another one, he will pop up. But yeah, no, it's very weird. It's very weird that Jeremy Renner was not there.
Yeah. Also, though, justice for MI3, they connect the rabbit's foot here, and I was like, "Hey, we finally made this movie count." I always loved MI3. I still stand by it. So.
Oh yeah, MI3 is probably one of the more underrated ones out of the entire bunch, I think. I mean, in terms of just some of the things that they've done with the spy stuff, but also I do love the fact that they don't necessarily give us what exactly the rabbit's foot is, apart from it being a bioagent, and they're like, it's the anti-god. And it's like, oh, okay, great. But it also had the code for the entity in there. So I was like, all right.
So I guess there's that.
There's that little connection.
But also MVP Tramell Tillman from Severance popping up, just chewing up scenery. Yes. Literally, it's great. Every literally when he showed up, everyone in the theater was like, "Hey!" Could tell how much of a favorite he is.
Oh yeah, no. In my theater, at least, there were definitely a couple. My theater is very weird in terms of when people start to pop at certain moments, but he definitely did get a pop when he popped up on screen. And I was like, yeah, that shows you exactly how many Severance fans there are out there right now.
Yeah, no, he's great. I mean, still, like, overall, it's like I think that it's still a very entertaining movie. I think it does its job of entertaining you, of giving you a good final film in which you're still going to get your entertainment value. You're going to get some emotional stakes. You're going to get some moments that kind of validate you as a fan in terms of like bringing some things back and kind of connecting things together. It's not perfect, obviously, but at the end of the day, I still think it's head and shoulders above most of the action movies that are made nowadays. So it's like even a okay to just solid Mission Impossible movie is better than a lot of movies out there. So I was still satisfied, and I would definitely watch this movie again.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, I think that's a good place to wrap it up, really.
Yeah. I mean, what would you guys give this out of 5 pints? What are we feeling?
I think I'll go 4. I think the beginning hurt it a little bit in terms of my score. I think if they had cleaned that up a little bit and just done a little bit better through lines with the plot and stuff, I would have given it a 4.5, but I'm going to land on 4.
4. All right. Andres?
Yeah, I think with some of the pros with this movie is that the stunt work is very exceptional. The third act sings in a way that every other Mission Impossible has done. And, you know, if you nail that third act, you have a great Mission Impossible movie right there. But with certain things in this as well, where it's like, you know, the cons for me is, I mean, so many weak connections and callbacks to the original feel so forced. And then the other thing too is the pacing is really all over the place with this film as it turns into a big exposition dump for it, at least the first half, which is at least an hour and a half. So that kind of really kind of boggled out the score a little bit. But I think ultimately at the end of the day, with the additions to the team and I tapped the mic. Sorry. Yeah.
Jeez.
But ultimately at the end of the day, with the additions to the team and just everything new that they added to the group, and in terms of that entire section in Alaska is amazing. And the entire biplane sequence is fantastic, and it deservedly so deserves to be seen on the biggest screen possible. That this movie ultimately becomes a 4 out of 5 for me. And that's a long-winded answer, but I was riding on a 4, possibly a 3.5. But I think ultimately, in thinking about it a little more and knowing what the epic scale of this is, it's a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm going to also go 4 out of 5. I think it's got its problems that, you know, first half of it is a little bit clunky, a little bit kind of stunted out of the gate. But I do think it is extremely entertaining. I think it delivers some of the best action sequences you're going to see all year. I think it's got another terrific set of performances, especially from Tom Cruise, who continues to just be a crazy son of a bitch, but in the best way possible. I love the guy, what he does for our entertainment. I mean, just insane. And as a Mission Impossible fan, you know, like, I'm satisfied. I don't think it's the crown jewel of this franchise. I still think that goes to Fallout. But I still think that this is, you know, a very entertaining, solid entry in the series that I feel like has gotten a lot of hate, unjustified. I think a lot of people are nitpicking this movie in a lot of ways, or focusing on things that ultimately, when you're watching it, don't really hold that much weight just because of how entertaining it is, especially once you're getting to some of those action sequences. But 4 out of 5, still really entertaining. Definitely one of the better movies you'll see this year, especially if you're an action fan. So 4 out of 5 pints for me on this one.
Fair enough.
There it is. But of course, let us know in the comments what you think about Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. If you did get a chance to check it out, also let us know what you thought of the trailers that we talked about today for Conjuring, Frankenstein, Superman. Let us know in the comments what you think of these things. We're definitely curious to hear your thoughts. And before we head on out, where can the fine people find you guys on the interwebs, Nancy?
You can find me at PL_Bandaid on Twitter and Instagram. And also, definitely after this, I'm going to go rewatch Top Gun Maverick just because we've been talking about Tom Cruise so much. And actually, last night we went to Dave & Buster's and there was a Top Gun game there. And when I started playing, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot how much I love this freaking movie. So you know, Tom Cruise, do the third one justice. But yes, you can find me over on there, and of course here in the comments, and every once in a while over on Cinemojis.
All right, Andres?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram as Galaghost. You can also find me on Letterboxd as Galaghost, and you can also find me on the Higher Voltage YouTube page where we are actually going to be putting together our Metal Gear Solid 3 retrospective, and that's going to be coming out in August. So plenty of time to catch up on that. But it's going to be a banger of a review. That's all I'll say. And you can also find me editing for our dear friend Jin Doyen over at Cinemojis, and also my buddy Jamie Dirac. I've been helping her edit some stuff for her YouTube channel, so you can find pretty much a lot of the latest edits on there as well too at Jamie Dirac Reviews. So there you go.
Alrighty. And if you guys want to follow me, you can find me on Facebook and YouTube at Chattelbash Reviews, Twitter and Instagram at Tom Chattelbash. And if you like Letterboxd, you can find me at T Chattelbash over there. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Film on Tap. Whether you watched it, listened to it, we appreciate it. We appreciate you taking that time to spend a little time with us. And until next time, thank you for watching a new episode of Film on Tap, where we've got the tap that never runs out. See you guys.
Bye.